Well, news today that Ukraine has requested coal from Australia to help civilians survive winter. Well, thank goodness our coal can help someone, since we're increasingly denied the opportunity to use it. Now, the Morrison government gifted Ukraine 70,000 tonnes of coal to help provide electricity back in 2022. It was part of a humanitarian package from Australia. There's a phrase I bet you thought you'd never hear: coal and humanitarian in the same sentence. What I don't understand is why the Ukrainian government requested coal rather than, say, solar panels or wind turbines. Anyway, it was revealed today that Ukraine's ambassador to Australia put in a request to the Albanese government back on December 5th and is still waiting for a response. Joining me to discuss this is Queensland Liberal MP Garth Hamilton and former Liberal MP and Sky News contributor Nicolle Flint. Nicolle, winter in Ukraine will be over by the time our government gets around to replying to their ambassador.
Look, you've got to wonder, and we've got to hope that maybe the war will be over before the Australian government bothers to give the Ukraine government the courtesy of a response. And I just think this is absolute peak virtue signalling from the federal Labor government. I am guessing they are far more concerned about inner city green votes than they are about human safety and human comfort in the Ukraine in the depths of winter. I just think this is appalling that they haven't given them the courtesy of a response, and more so, haven't just sent the coal over as the Morrison government did. We should be, I hope all electors in Australia are paying close attention to this, because this is what you can expect from Labor. Green inner city votes are more important than helping out people in need.
That's sure the way it seems. Well, today it's been revealed there's been a cyber attack on the Victorian court system, with criminals getting access to sensitive videos that were used in trials. Court Services Victoria has released a statement revealing it was alerted to the incident on 21st of December. Nicolle, Russian hackers are suspected to be behind this attack. I should say they're smart to target Victoria, because if they're ever apprehended, the Victorian courts will likely let them off. But this is concerning, isn't it? The courts being hacked by Russian criminals?
It's very concerning, and I would hope that the full force of the law and the courts would absolutely find in favour of Australians in this instance, James. What we have seen recently, though, especially federal Labor, so the good mates of the Victorian Labor government, is this obsessive focus on things like the disinformation and misinformation bill and trying to censor the Australian media, the Australian people. And we know that here, us on Sky will be the major targets if Labor get this terrible bill through, rather than the real enemy, which is international hackers, whether it's coming from China, whether it's coming from Russia, the federal government in particular, but supported by Labor governments, state Labor governments, as they are at the moment, mainly, well, in every state and territory apart from Tasmania, should be backing up their federal colleagues, and not even that, demanding that they take action on cybersecurity, and that is the key focus, not trying to censor people, having a public policy debate like we are here this evening and sharing our opinions on key issues of the day.
Yeah, I agree, absolutely. Garth, this isn't the only major cyber attack in recent months. We had St Vincent's Health Network, that was hit in December. Millions had their records stolen in attacks on organisations including Medibank and Optus. Seems like a great time for the government to, come up with a digital ID where we store all of our information centrally on government computers?
I think it's a good time to take the issue very seriously, is what it is. We've seen this happen a number of times now, unfortunately, mostly in the private sector, but to see our judicial systems compromised by a cyber threat is absolutely very concerning. And Nicolle's right to point out the government's focused on the wrong things, worried about dissent, worried about people having a different point of view to them. What we have here is foreign actors engaging in, quite frankly, very, very dangerous abuse of our data privacy online. And I think it's about time we start to see that leadership from the government on this issue.
Just remaining in Victoria, the Australian reported that more than a third of the state's Labor MPs, this is in Victoria, more than a third of the state's Labor MPs don't live in their electorates. Instead, many are choosing to live in upmarket suburbs, far away from the people they're elected to represent. According to The Australian, 20 of Labor's 56 lower house MPs and 5 of their 15 upper house MPs live outside their electorates. Nicolle, how can these MPs represent voters when they don't even live in the community or even close to the people they're elected to represent?
Well, they can't. And this is classic chardonnay socialism. We are on the side of the workers. We're for the workers. We're for the battlers. We just don't want to live next door to them. We certainly don't want to shop with them. We'll turn up to our electorate office, I don't know, once a week? Maybe they turn up every day. But they're not living there with their families. They're not in those communities every single day. I think it's appalling. I think it is really important that MPs live in their electorate. I certainly did the entire time I was the member for Boothby. The only excuse for not living in your electorate is if you've had a boundary redistribution through no fault of your own and the Australian or State Electoral Commission changes the boundaries so your home is no longer in your electorate. But we see this all the time with Labor. We certainly see it a lot here in South Australia. I think it's terrible. I think it should change, and I think they should be ashamed of themselves.
Garth, compared to Labor, the Victorian Liberals, they only had 4 of their 27 lower house MPs and 2 of their 11 upper house MPs living outside their electorates. So does this explain why Labor is so out of touch with voters in Victoria, and maybe this correlates throughout the rest of the country?
But maybe this is why we're seeing disenfranchisement with Labor and its traditional voting base. We saw blue-collar voters have been deserting the Albanese Labor government, and I'm sure we're going to see that across the state as they continue to disassociate themselves from the people that they're supposed to represent. I'm very proud with the LMP. Part of our pre-selection process is that we are residents within the electorate we seek to serve. I think that sends a strong message to the electorate that we're here to listen, to be a part of the community we want to represent, and to take those voices to Parliament. If Labor continues to be a top-down, union-driven organisation, it's going to continue to lose that crucial support that it once had back when it was old Labor representing working people.
Yeah, well, the polls are certainly showing that's the way things are headed. I want to go back to a story I mentioned earlier in the program. 2 more asylum seekers who were released after the High Court ruled against indefinite detention. They've been arrested. Garth, the government made a mess of this last year. Are we just having more of the same in 2024?
It appears we're going to have exactly the same process go on, where unfortunately these people continue to get arrested. But the government made a big deal, you might remember this, about introducing the preventative detention laws. They wanted to show that they were big and tough. We had Claire O'Neill getting out and talking about how she was every bit as strong as Peter Dutton. They've not used those laws. They've not used those laws since at all. In fact, after that big show and that travesty, quite frankly, of the democratic system, rushing it through on a non-sitting day and almost gagging debate, they've not used those laws. So we're going to continue to see the same things happen in 2024 as we did in 2023. Sadly, more and more of these people are likely to be arrested should they commit these crimes.
Yeah, on a lighter note, just before we finish, we all loved watching the fireworks on New Year's Eve to ring in 2024, but I wonder if we're losing our ability to just, live in the moment. I want both of you to have a look at this clip. This is from New Year's Eve in Paris. Have a look. All right, I want to get a response from both of you to this. I didn't notice the fireworks for all the iPhones being held up. Garth, what does this say about current culture?
I don't think it says too many good things. But I point out, I'd say that staring into a camera myself right now, so they can be terribly useful. They've become all-encompassing parts of our life. But it's nice to be able to stop every now and then and smell the roses.
Nicolle, are we living the ability to just enjoy the moment and be present?
Yep, absolutely. And I just think that's so sad. And honestly, the quality of recording that you get off of your phone in a big crowd, whether it's at a concert or watching the fireworks, is so inferior to just being present in the moment and watching the fireworks. On New Year's Eve, I was very lucky to see some fireworks down in my little part of country South Australia, and we all stood there on the balcony and we just watched them.
Good on you. Well, Garth Hamilton and Nicolle Flint, thank you very much for your time and Happy New Year.